Balance podcast. I'm Diane Wright, your host. Here is where I'd like to share stories and interviews with leading practitioners and coaches, all under the health and wellness umbrella. We'll be including holistic therapies, inspirational people, and a vast array of experts to help you get on the right path. Join me every week for advice and information that will offer help and support, because we all need the right balance in life. Hi, everybody. It's Diane Wright from the Right Balance podcast. This is episode 2 of my life and my journey with lupus. This follows on from episode 1 last week. So, starting off again, trying to get my life back to normal, and stopping these drugs and everything that was putting my path that seemed to hinder me at the time. And it was a real struggle for me to actually lift myself out of this hole that I was in. I wanted to go back to how I felt. Like I said before, I wanted to feel normal again. I wanted to feel like the Diane that I knew, the shadow that always followed me around. Drugs were always an issue with me, always. It was as if I was poisoning my own body. It was as if that, everything was complicated when I took something like that wasn't meant to be in the body. And I always remember when I was having chemotherapy at the time in hospital, and they'd administrate the drug as an inpatient. I was in for 6 weeks at the time, and every day they took my bloods, but every Friday, the bloods would be taken earlier in the morning. At this particular time, there was one of the nurses had said to me, "Have you ever tried reflexology?" And no, never heard of it, never knew nothing about it at all. And again, you've got to remember, there's no Google, there's no search bars, there's no internet. It was always just the library. So she decided that she was going to give me a treatment. She had learned a few weeks ago in a very small, quick class about reflexology and about where the reflexes were on the feet. So she decided to do a treatment, I think it was only about 20 minutes long. It wasn't long at all. And they took my blood tests after she had been in the morning. And she asked me if I would like it every Friday, and I did say yes. When they come to check my blood tests on the Friday after the treatment, they were completely different. They thought maybe sometimes the bloods had been, gotten to the wrong hands, or, not so much the wrong hands, but had been tested wrong, or something, quirky had happened. No. Every Friday, my test results were completely and utterly different, better. They were always better on a Friday. Now, was it coincidence? I don't think so. I don't believe in that personally. There was something going on. There was something happening with my body to validate these tests. It wasn't a fluke test. It was every Friday. Well, that was me hooked. Hook, line and sinker, as I say. I wanted to know everything about reflexology. I wanted to understand it. And I am also the sort of person that wants to run before I can walk. So I get super frustrated if I can't take something in quick enough. And again, as I said, the internet wasn't here, and it was all library books. There was some private booksellers selling books, and you had to pay a high postage at the time. I got a couple, and I did actually get a couple of really old books out of the bookshops locally as well. But I was hooked. I was absolutely fascinated by this. And I was totally brand new to it. So I was starting from scratch. So the chemo was in roughly 94. Over the next few years, I did start to get stronger in myself. And as I say, I did get back into work, and the hobbies took on. And I did feel a lot better in myself. I wasn't having any more reflexology, but I knew my life was starting to turn. So if anybody has been out of work, you know how hard it is for money wise. And I had a lot of help from my parents. I was still living with my mum and dad. And so money was extremely tight. The odd shift in the travel agents, or I was helping with horses or something that I could get some little bits of coin together. And then it wasn't until 2000 where I had my heavy goods license. I had my class 2 first, and then I took on my class 1. And with a background in horses, initially it was thought that I maybe could transport horses around. That was my initial thought, of to try and earn some money. Excuse me, I passed my class 1 the January of 2000, few weeks prior to the foot and mouth. And it actually was the foot and mouth that, very sad, very distressing time for an awful lot of people. But it actually was the one that pulled me out of a dark hole on monetary value. It was from that I totally picked myself up. I worked the whole year, and then I started studying, and I decided to study at the Scottish School at Falkirk. It's disbanded now, unfortunately, but it was a full course of 18 months where a full anatomy and physiology was included, and then obviously all the reflex points on the feet. All sorts of conditions were talked about, the body functions and how they correspond with the systems on the feet. Fully in depth. It was quite heavy going for. I'm not really academic that way. I have to figure things out myself as a person, and I'm more of a visual person. So the hands-on stuff was fabulous for me. I really enjoyed that. The things that we had to do, we had to have case studies. Now, going back in 2003 when I sat this, it was 20 case studies, which I believe now is over 100 case studies. And this is great for anybody to get familiar with the feet, reactions of the clients and all sorts. It's a fascinating time, and I really enjoyed that. And then I qualified 2004, and that was great. I really, if I'm honest, I didn't really know how to go about it. I was quite nervous about going out to the big world. I still had my goods license behind me, so I did have an income coming in, which was really useful. But it was a funny time. It's a really, I think it's like learning to drive a car. When you've got your certificate, that's fine. Or when you've got your driving lesson passed, that's fine. It's then making the transition into your next line of work, or what you really want to do, but you know you're at the bottom of the ladder, or you know you want to get in the big car and drive it, but you're not familiar with the mechanics of it, if you like. And even though everything's there in the background, it's just putting it into motion. And I found that really super difficult. I put a lot of effort into family and friends, and asking loads of questions about how they thought about it. And I wanted to know more about the inside of the person. You know, what was the reactions with this? How did they feel with this? And it became an addiction for me because I wanted to know more and more and more. One of the things that you're taught, and it's still taught this way when you do a reflexology practitioner's course, you have to take a full consultation. And when you do the consultation, you ask about everything that person is going on with. So everything about their anatomy, how they sleep, the general aches and pains, how does their lung function work, how do they exercise, you name it, it's asked, it's everything. Now, when you get into the nitty gritty, this was my way of thinking it, when you got into the nitty gritty of asking all the questions, and then going to the feet and working through the feet in a sequence, I felt like there was a bit of the puzzle missing. Well, not missing, it had actually already been put in. They had told me everything about it. So there was it was me then validating everything they'd said on the feet. So for me, there was no validation in what I was saying. So after I did my case studies, I spoke to the people that I had been actually working on and asked them if they knew anybody who would be willing to have a treatment without a consultation. So in theory, I was actually working blind. I didn't want to know anything about them. I didn't want to know, you name it, anything medically about them at all. And yeah, everybody jumped at that. I said, yeah, okay. There's a really fine line here that I have to stress. You know, it's not magical. It's not psychic. I just wanted the validation in the feet. And for me, that was paramount. The feet tell you everything. And to date, nearly 20 years later, I do not do a consultation. I do not want to know. Some people may say, I'm coming to you because, that's fine. If somebody, I'll ask them, if you don't want to tell me anything about your feet, I would like to work through my validation on how I work. And that is how I work. It's fascinating. The way that I look at the feet, I feel the feet, I work the reflexes. They tell me exactly what is going on. I also like to split the body in half. So what I mean by that is for me, the right side of the body is very much past, if you like, and the left is very much now, the now foot. This is very apparent when I'm doing a treatment. It makes more sense because then it is, for me, it is putting the jigsaw pieces in. It is fitting it all together. And I always explain my treatments very much like the Jenga wood game where the little bits of wood are sticking out and you have to pop them back in to keep everything straight or pull them out. And that's how I see the body, Jenga. That's how I see if things are imbalanced. So it's my job to push them little bits of wood or push them organs or systems kind of more into a balanced state. And I find it super therapeutic. I'm addicted to it actually, because not only can you see the differences in the feet, you can see it in the face and in the body. You'll see the breathing change. The physics of the body is amazing. And it's not just, if anybody tells me this, it's just a massage, I will slap them because it is so much more. It is about you. It is about your journey. It's about what makes you tick. Yeah, we might be made of all the same material, i.e. the body functions, the body organs. It may all be kind of built the same way as an overall. But how we actually function as a human is unique to you. And that's what I love. That is why it's so important for me to say, this is your journey. This is your whole mind, body, and spirit, journey that's going to progress. We may dig some things up that are very traumatic. For me, we need them to come out. That is part of the healing. We also need the body functions to run 100% and to have everything running energy wise. Your blood and materials, your food supplies, and the flow of energy must flow like the figure of 8. There's ups, there's downs, there's in-betweens. When we feel sluggish, we must recognize when the body is telling us this. If you go ahead with something, activity, or something that you don't really want to do it because your body's aching, please just stop and listen to it. Your body will shout if you don't listen. It will start with little whispers, and it then will eventually shout and make you stop in your tracks. And it's that frightens people because it's not normal. But you've had the warnings and you haven't listened. So it's really important for me when I'm speaking with clients, this is so unique to you. This is how your body works. And you become so in tuned with your body. You become so aware of much more things happening on the surface and within as well. There is a sequence of how I like to work, and it does include the mind, body, and spirit. I'm not psychic. I'm not like that at all. The feet tell me everything. I do work with Reiki energy now, and that is quite a powerful thing as well. So I get energy back and forth with a protection. I'll go into that on another day. But it's so important to realize this reflexology is it's a journey, and it's a very, very personal journey for you. Some people experience after a treatment reactions. There is the word, I hate using it. It's called the healing crisis, and it just puts the hairs right up on the back of my neck, because it isn't a crisis. It's the healing that needs to take place. So if you have a treatment and, for example, the therapist explains that maybe your back or your shoulder is a little bit crunchy, these are sensations that you may feel during the treatment. Not everybody feels them. Be aware of that shoulder or back aching a little bit tomorrow. Some of the feelings you get during a treatment can be very much like bubble wrap under the skin. Some people describe it like popping, and these are bits of calcium depositories that are under the skin that have built up. I like to think of them as a blockage on the motorway, and I need to clear that traffic off the motorway so it runs freely again. The treatment should be very relaxing. Sometimes you will get the energy up and down the body. Some people just get it in the legs. That's unique as well. It's different for everybody, all different feelings that you'll get. I like to incorporate a bit of Reiki at the end, just on the feet only. And this is for me and the client to see what energies that they can feel running up and down. I work with some acupuncture and acupressure points on the feet. And I also laterally work with mama points, which I'll get into later on. Very relaxing, as I say. Some people describe it coming out of a treatment as floating on air, or the very light feeling, a very sort of airy feeling. Some people, bearing in mind you could have been on the couch for an hour and 45, you will be quite lightheaded when you get up. But the treatment itself is super relaxing, and you will get feelings in the anatomic body when I'm working that reflex for that particular part of the body on the foot as well. Prime example is on the stomach. You start working the stomach and we have a little bit of burping, or we have a little bit of gurgling, and it's the validation, it's the true validation of what connects. The maps on the feet do differ greatly. For me, I was trained the Ingham method. Eunice Ingham, who was with a physiotherapist Fitzgerald back in the day, 1930s, and decided to put the maps together herself. And primarily I do go with that. And then just through experience, I have my own techniques that work with other reflexes that I've worked. So I found that quite interesting, putting it all together. I then carried on additional training after my practitioner's course, and I did pregnancy and fertility. Wow. We had a super fruitful testing time, shall I say, during my training. We had ladies who next step was IVF and fell pregnant naturally. In fact, there was 3. So I was ecstatic with that, because I'm not a mother. I don't have children. So for me, it was a brand new learning curve. It was quite mind-blowing for me. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I also did Allergies and Intolerances, another really interesting one, more to do with how we react with the body. It's not always what you think it is, as people can diagnose food allergies. That's fine. However, I like to go a little bit deeper than that. There's more to it. I also did cancer and diabetic patient. And diabetic patient was really interesting for me as well. And I'm fascinated when we look at diabetic patients, when it starts, and how life has changed for that particular client. When it starts, what's actually happened. It's really, really interesting. The cancer patients, I primarily did hand reflexology on cancer patients. Very comforting, very comforting. I found it extremely hard because I was working with patients in end stage life. I found that extremely hard. Personally, for me, I couldn't take myself away from that. I was mentally and physically involved with them too much, and for me, I'm such an empathist. I found it really difficult to pull back. So I found that tough for me as a therapist. I do now like to put a lot of my expertise and personal background into autoimmune diseases, or disorders, as I like to call them. Interesting concepts with them as well. And the reason why the body goes through different stages, I find fascinating. There's a lot of research that does carry on. They still come up with the autoimmune disorder because they really don't know why the body's doing and what it does. Personally, as I was told, the body's attacking itself. I don't get that. Why would the body, when it fights for your life every day to keep your heart beating, to keep the oxygen in your lungs, why would the body attack itself? Doesn't make sense to me, that at all. For me, there's a lot more going on. I also did some training in Chinese medicine and the meridians, and the connection. There's a lot of things that I like to bring into my therapy. Just recently, in 2018, I spent 6 months in India and trained in Ayurvedic medicine. Amazing. And if there's one thing that I have to tell people, is go back to nature. Just go back. And I've heard this through the pandemic. Go back to nature, go for a walk, get back in the garden, get some fresh air. Oh my goodness, it's more than that. You so need nature around you. It's the healing, natural healing essence of life. And Ayurveda is 5,000 plus years old, and the teachings are still going strong. And while in India, I did have treatments from their program. It was the best I'd ever felt. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. So after my training, I did my course. I finished it, qualified in 2004. And slowly, I started to build my clients up. I was brand new to, how do I go about this? I had no marketing expertise. I don't tell you this, how to sort of put yourself out there. It was all word of mouth. And again, there's no Facebook. There was nothing like that. Social media. I think MySpace was the thing at the time. So it was all word of mouth for me. So I did mobile. And then I worked in a couple of different salons. Now, I also want to point out at this stage that I have some exceptionally good friends who work in beauty salons. I am not a beautician. I am a reflexologist. And I'm saying this with tongue in cheek because I know beauticians actually train and do a reflexology course as part of their training, and that's fine. Please don't call yourself a reflexologist. I have reflexologist colleagues who work and put an awful lot of effort into their treatments. Reflexology is unique. It is not a foot massage. Please don't use that word. It is so much more than that. And when you come across an expert who can tell you what is going on your feet, you have a proper reflexologist. The reflexologists that are about can be found on different websites and associations, or you can Google reflexologists near me, and they'll bring up ones locally to you. A lot of the associations also have contact numbers that you can contact them direct, or I believe now Facebook is a great essence for finding your local reflexologist. Ask them where they trained, how long they trained for, what background have they got, and get an essence of them. Reflexologists as a whole have usually got a backstory, or they've usually got a story like mine, how they got into it. And usually I've got the saying, I've got the t-shirt, I can tell you exactly what's going on. Them are the reflexologists that you need. Do a bit of research when you're looking for them as well. They're fascinating to have a talk to as well. Always approachable. So back to coming in and out of salons. So I worked some days in different salons. I still didn't have enough financially to pack the driving in altogether. So I still was driving heavy goods lorries, which kept me generally fit, because at the time it was a lot of in and out and running around. So that was quite good. And then a couple of days doing mobile or in the shop reflexology, and it worked really well, exceptionally well. And over the next 5 years, it was built up that it was all word of mouth. As I say, there was no Facebook then. It's just starting actually in 2006-07. But it did grow steadily by itself, organically, as they'd call it. And it's never really stopped. I love my work. And the next episode is going to be about what happened next. And that is an insight into...
Thanks for listening to the Right Balance podcast.
The beginning of chapter 1.
Hope you enjoyed the content.
Discussed,
please tell your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the show. It will also be uploaded to the social media channels like Facebook and YouTube, including all the show notes. I hope you'll join me next week. Stay safe.
Phone call from my consultant, who regularly checked my bloods as normal, as always, to say there was a deterioration in my kidneys. I had gone nearly 20 years past the 6 years. So the next episode is all about what happened in 2007. Thanks for listening, and I hope I can catch you next time. Have a great weekend. Take care.